Hello there, I am Pedantic Gamer and today I'm giving some impressions on Chivalry Medieval Warfare, which I shall simply call Chivalry for the rest of this mini review of sorts. Chivalry is a mid-budget release by Tornbarner Studios and is a game resulting from a quick starter and is essentially a follow-up to the Age of Chivalry mod. Chivalry is mostly a multiplayer game, with the only somewhat single-player portion being the training and the ability to play the multiplayer with bots. Now in Chivalry you will play in a made-up medieval setting, where a Mason Order and a Gaither Knights are at war with one another. The reason for which is never really gone into in any depth, and is simply used as a means of having two fictional groups at war with one another. Whilst this is definitely functional, it does feel like somewhat of a missed opportunity, and having some reasons for the conflict could have added to the gameplay and made for a more intense and satisfying experience. Chivalry uses a class-based system with 4 classes to choose from: an archer, a man-at-arms, a vanguard, or a knight. Each class has its own unique weapons, along with some which are shared, and some unique abilities which are once again some are also shared. You are not locked into a class beyond your current life, and in many ways this is reminiscent of other class-based games such as Killzone or Battlefield. The major differences come from in that you cannot spawn off team members, and instead spawn at a set location, which thankfully has thus far proven near and impossible to get spawn camped in. Whilst I am sure it is possible, I simply have not seen it yet, and hopefully I'll continue to not see it. Now the classes synergize differently to most other squad-based multiplayer games, and every class is committed to a different kind of offense. There is no healer or class able to drop supplies, for example. Instead, the classes act as a different way to play the game, with the most effective teams generally using a combination of all classes simultaneously. The man-at-arms, the vanguard, and the knight all focus on melee combat, and the melee combat can be ever so satisfying. The man-at-arms is a very lightly armoured combatant that utilises smaller melee weapons and is extremely fast. It has the ability to dash by double pressing the W, A, S or D key in the direction you wish to quickly move. The vanguard is more heavily armoured than the man-at-arms and uses longer weapons such as the halberd. When the vanguard runs for a set period of time, he will raise the weapon in his hands and allow the player to make a devastating running attack. Lastly of these 3 classes is the knight. As you may have guessed, it is the most armoured unit and utilises larger shields, and has such abilities as shield bushing, which allows you to quickly take out enemies as they stumble backwards. To be successful in melee combat, one will have to be proficient in blocking, which requires you to aim at the end of the attacker's weapon and right-click at the right time. There is no on-screen indicator though, which helps provide for an extremely tense experience. There is also 3 main attacks: a medium-speed horizontal swipe, which you undertake by using the right mouse button, a slow but highly damaging vertical attack, which you undertake by mouse wheeling down, and a fast but low damaging attack by mouse wheeling up. A small number of combos are also available. So, overall the melee combat has numerous playstyles and provides a simple to learn but hard to master system, and put rather simply is an absolute thrill. Hacking off enemies' limbs is a tremendously visceral and bloody experience in Chivalry, and there are few games in recent memory that provide this kind of thrill, although it may be a wee bit sadistic. However, those wanting to simply run in button mashing may find themselves dying more often than they would like, as this game does require precise timing to be successful, and simply mushing the different attacks will rarely work. So what about the 4th class being the archer? This is sadly where Chivalry fails to meet expectations. The archer is effective, and whilst you can switch to a secondary small melee weapon, the job of the archer is generally to attack using either the crossbow or a bow and arrow, both of which lack the visceral thrill available with melee combat. Archers are effective though and can make a huge difference to the team. They simply somehow manage to feel like a bit of an afterthought rather than a fully fleshed out part of the game, as is the case with the melee combat. And ultimately they're simply the least fun to play as out of the 4 classes, or at least that is my experience. As for the game modes, there are 3: Team Objective, Team Deathmatch, and Free-for-all. Free-for-all and Team Deathmatch are fun and play exactly as one would expect, but ultimately they are mere diversions from the real meat of the game, which is the Team Objective mode. In the Team Objective mode you will be either defending or attacking. If the attackers are successful in reaching their objective, the map shall increase, or move to a new area, much like in the Operations mode of Killzone or Rush in the Battlefield games. The objectives are varied, and ultimately this is a way Chivalry is clearly meant to be played. However, there are some slight issues. The defenders really just have to stop them from reaching their objectives. That's all they have to do. And it would have been nice if they had their own mini objectives that could have helped them out. For example, having certain supply areas they could control, or gain access to other weapons to attack back with set weapons. This is sadly not present in the game, and does make it feel a little bit too simplistic when defending, and also does hurt the attacker's side to a lesser degree though. Now, the main issue present in Chivalry has nothing really to do with the game, it's the actual servers and the size of the servers. Now, there are plenty of people currently playing, but I could very easily see this game dying fairly quickly. In Australia at the moment, for example, there's only 3 or 4 active servers at any given time, at least when I've been on. This is incredibly low and suggests that the game could die off fairly quickly. I assume this will be less of an issue in more densely populated areas, but it's still something you should take into account before making a purchase. Now, Chivalry is ultimately a fantastic example of what a small group of dedicated people can do. And despite some obvious drawbacks, such as the range combat, the melee combat more than makes up for it, although you will still require some people to play as archers, which I imagine few people will generally want to. It however is very beneficial for some people to play as an archer, but as a result of people not wanting to, it could create some issues with regards to the different classes and the balance between them, although I haven't seen anything that would suggest that yet. It's just something, once again, to be aware of a possible issue that is present. Nonetheless, Chivalry is a very thrilling experience and a very tense experience, and it is oh so satisfying to lop off an enemy's head. So thus it is very, very easy to actually recommend this highly. I would definitely recommend checking it out if you have any inclination to playing this game at all. I highly doubt you'll be disappointed. Once again, there are a few drawbacks to be aware of. Take that into account and don't necessarily purchase straight away. Look into some more footage, by all means. But I can really not recommend this game highly enough unless you are really only interested in the ranged combat, in which case you may be better off looking elsewhere, such as War of the Roses. Whilst I haven't personally played that game, from what I've been told, the ranged combat is much better there. And from what I've seen though, I imagine the melee combat in War of the Roses would have to be pretty spectacular to compete with what is here in Chivalry. I will be planning on covering some War of the Roses, but not anytime soon as I've got my hands busy here. Anyway, this is Pedantic Gamer. I do hope you've enjoyed this quick little look into Chivalry. Let me know what you've thought of this video. Have I addressed all the points effectively and efficiently? If you have liked it, please give it a like and maybe consider subscribing. Anyway, this is Pedantic Gamer. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I do hope to see you next time.